Most people do not actually want to feel their emotions. They want to manage them into good behavior. They want to make them quieter, prettier, more functional, less inconvenient. They want to stay impressive while hurting. So they call it emotional regulation, self-awareness, nervous system care, inner work, whatever sounds respectable enough. But a lot of time, what they are really doing is trying to keep the mess from touching reality. That is why emotional control becomes such a weird addiction. It gives the feeling of responsibility. It makes us feel advanced. And trying to control emotion sounds wise until you notice your life has become a hostage situation. And that is where people waste years, not because they are too emotional, but because they are too committed to looking like someone who is handling it well. So, let's look at the 3 mistakes to avoid when you are trying to control your emotions. Mistake number 1. Treating the emotion like the problem instead of the structure producing it. That is the biggest one. We feel anxiety, jealousy, grief, or rage, or shame, or whatever, and immediately the project becomes, how do I calm this down? How do I soothe it? How do I regulate it? How do I go back to the center? Which sounds responsible and reasonable, except a lot of the time the emotion is just not malfunctioning. It is reporting. Something is off. Something hurts. Something is mismatched. Something keeps happening. Something in our life is producing the same internal consequence over and over. And instead of looking at the structure, we crouch over the emotion like a mechanic trying to silence the dashboard warning light with spiritual duct tape. It is like living in a house with black mold and spending all your energy learning how to breathe more gracefully while coughing. Beautiful inhale, elegant exhale, and the wall is still poisoning you. And a lot of emotional control is exactly that. We are trying to become highly skilled at experiencing the consequence of life. We are not actually interrupting. We keep dating the same kind of a person, staying in the same kind of dynamic, betraying the same boundary, avoiding the same move, and then acting like the real challenge is to master our emotional response. No, the real challenge may be that we keep volunteering for conditions that predictably produce the same pain. And emotional control becomes especially dangerous when it makes us more tolerant to what should become intolerable. Now we can stay longer, explain more, breathe through more, normalize it. We become like a very calm person sitting in a slowly flooding basement, proud of how regulated we are. And the opportunity here is simple. Stop using emotional skill to protect bad structures from interruption. Sometimes the most intelligent thing an emotion does is make a situation impossible to keep spiritualizing. And here goes mistake number 2 when you try to control your emotions. Turning emotional control into an identity. This one gets ugly fast because it looks so mature. We become the person who does not overreact, the grounded one, the one who takes space before responding, the one who has done the work. Now we are trapped in the image of being emotionally well managed. Now we are trapped in the image of being emotionally well managed. And that image starts controlling us more than the emotion ever did. And we do not want to look needy, so we say nothing. We do not want to look reactive, so we swallow the clean truth. We do not want to look dysregulated, so we come performing composure while our insides are basically raccoons fighting in a laundry bag. We become loyal to the self-image of being balanced, and suddenly our emotional life is not being met. it is being curated. That is when the whole thing gets creepy. The hurt is still there, the anger is still there, and fear is still there, but now everything has to pass through a branding department first. And people get weirdly high on this identity. Not sloppy drunk high, more like that soft spiritual buzz of someone who is very proud they did not send the text, did not cry in front of anyone, did not collapse into old patterns, while quietly building an elegant prison out of restraint. They sit there glowing with self-control like they just completed a sacred ritual, when really they just abandoned themselves in a very articulate way. The point is not to glorify emotional chaos. It is to notice that self-control can become vanity, a polished way of staying unexposed. Some people are not emotionally free, they are just heavily edited. The opportunity here is brutal and useful. Once we stop trying to be the kind of person who handles emotions well, we can start noticing what is actually happening without all the image maintenance. And if you can feel how much energy goes into maintaining that edited version of yourself, this is exactly the kind of role we break down in my book, The End of Your Story. The book includes a simple template for stepping out of the identity that keeps running your life and costing you more than it gives. It is in the description. And mistake number 3 when you try to control your emotions: using techniques to delay action. This is where everything rots. We feel something hard, and instead of letting it clarify anything, we begin the ritual. Breathe, ground, journal, regulate, tap, calm down, or whatever. Return to the body first, and all of which can be useful in the right place, but a lot of the time it becomes a stalling energy or stalling strategy with excellent marketing. Because once the emotion settles, the urgency often goes with it. And that is the trick. The feeling was about to force something into the open. A boundary, a decision, a confrontation, a move. But we are so trained to downshift the emotion that we calm ourselves out of the very action the emotion arrived to expose. This happens constantly. We get upset enough to finally see the relationship clearly, then we regulate and become generous again. We get angry enough to stop tolerating something, then we process it and turn it into compassion. And we get sad enough to admit a truth, then we soothe ourselves and float gently back into the same arrangement with softer shoulders and worse standards. And that is not emotional mastery. That is using techniques like weed for the personality. Not full blackout, just enough of a little inner hit to take the sharpness off reality, so we can keep functioning in the same loop. Again, calming down is not the problem. The problem is that people often use calming down to preserve what the emotion was threatening to interrupt. They do not regulate in order to act clearly. They regulate in order not to act at all. And that is why so many emotionally skilled people remain structurally stuck. Their techniques are effective, too effective. They keep restoring internal order inside lives that actually need disruption. The opportunity here is clean. Let the emotion do its job before you tranquilize it into personal growth. Sometimes the clearest thing in the room is the very feeling you are trying to make more manageable. And once that is seen, the whole project changes a little bit. You stop asking how to control your emotions and start asking, what are they really exposing that your current life cannot keep hiding, then the goal is not to stay calm at any cost. The goal is to stop using emotional control as a way to remain available for the same old nonsense. Because if all your work around emotions only makes you easier to disappoint, easier to delay, easier to keep in bad structures, easier to separate from your own reaction, then it is not really helping. It is just making you more absorbent. And that is not freedom. That is emotional paper towel behavior in expensive language.